Hey everyone, Ben here, and over the last 3 years I've grown a sim racing YouTube channel to over 10,000 subscribers. It hasn't all been smooth sailing and I've made plenty of mistakes. But if I was starting today, which sim would I prioritise making content around? How would I look to hack the YouTube algorithm to promote my content? And how would I avoid burnout and giving up after just a few months? This video provides answers to these questions and many more, so let's get stuck in. It's super easy to imagine that YouTube is to blame if your channel isn't growing, and there's no doubt that the algorithm can be a mysterious beast. But the truth is that while YouTube will provide you with tools to grow your channel, I think its commercial model cares much more about viewers than it does individual channels. So you need to be producing content that has a clear audience in mind, and that can get that audience to firstly click on your video and secondly to actually watch it for a decent chunk of time. Every time you do that, YouTube is more likely to share your next video with those people first, and over time it'll get a pretty good sense of who your core audience is. So you also want to be mindful of whether you're creating content that they'll want to keep on consuming. To get people clicking and watching, you need to make sure you're creating distinctive titles and thumbnails that will not only appeal to your audience, but create a curiosity to find out more. Of course, you need to avoid clickbait as best as you can. That subject deserves its own video, but what I mean here is the core content of your video has to deliver on the promise you make in the title and the thumb. In terms of that core content, just another race video or another setup guide is unlikely to grab many people's attention. You have to find a way to inject your personality and create sustained interest through how you produce and edit your videos. Get this right and you'll generate a higher click-through rate and audience retention rate, making it easier for the algorithm to share your video more widely with the right people who want to watch. Which racing sim you primarily focus on will have a big impact on your channel growth too. In hindsight, I think I benefited hugely from starting out on Race Room in 2021, a title with a dedicated and at that time growing player base, but without many people creating content for it during that period. I can't imagine how tough it must be to start from scratch in the saturated market of iRacing content creation. Hats off to anyone who builds a channel in this way. But this isn't to say you should only play sims on the basis of which will do best on YouTube. You should race what you enjoy, and I'll come back to that later. But if I was starting out today with content creation in mind, I think I'd probably opt for either Assetto Corsa and Assetto Corsa Competizione on LFM for online racing, or AMS2 for offline racing content. All three have very few barriers to entry, especially in terms of cost, plus they each have new DLC or mods releasing for them alongside a dedicated and sustained player and viewer base for you to appeal to with your videos. But including lots of different sims on your channel can have mixed results. There are many great multi-sim channels out there, but there remains a danger of mixing it up too much and leaving the algorithm to share your videos with audiences who might be less likely to click on them. That has certainly been my experience at times. It took me ages to build an iRacing viewer base, having started my channel almost solely focused on Race Room, and when I brought the F1 series to the channel, it was even worse. F1 was just too different an audience to be easy to maintain alongside a hardcore sim like iRacing, and I think that led to a reduced click-through rate across all of my content, as I suspect I'd confused the algorithm to some degree. But look, if you're finding this video helpful and want to help it reach more of the right audience, leaving a like would be amazing, and send a signal to YouTube that it's worth sharing it with more sim racers on the platform. Of course, YouTube now offers you more options when it comes to the kind of content you create. I don't stream, but mixing up video content with live streams where you can generate more engagement with your audience can only be a good thing for growth. I have though dabbled in YouTube Shorts, and while I don't have the enthusiasm to create bespoke content in the format of a 60-second clip, I've found that they're a great vehicle for showcasing moments from existing race videos. The main reason I've persevered with them is, according to my channel data, shorts seemingly reach brand new audiences that my core videos may not do. That means they're a great way to reach new people for your channel as a whole, even if a relatively small proportion end up converting to regular watchers or subscribers. Overall then, there's no single right kind of content to make, but in my experience it's good to have a content mix between topical and responsive videos. For example, this week's ranked lobbies alongside guides and recommendations. The latter are more likely to be evergreen videos that people can come back to over long periods of time, as relevant tomorrow as they are today. Some of my most successful videos this week were published years ago, but they're still pulling people into the channel and even generating revenue and subscribers all this time later, because they're answering questions or adding value to the things sim racers are likely going to want over many months, if not forever. And speaking of data, I happen to be the kind of person who's hugely motivated by tracking numbers, which is helpful for growing a YouTube channel. YouTube provides you with an abundance of performance data, but which should you be most focused on? When you start out, the big focus for most will be on subscriber count and watch hours, as the gates to monetization are locked behind reaching a certain level of each. But strip it all back and what you want is eyes on your channel, so in reality I think it's views that matter most, together with how long those views last. You do not want just any old views though, so please don't be tempted to engage in advertising or buying views in other ways. As mentioned earlier, you need views of people who will enjoy your content and be likely to want to watch the videos you produce next. You can help with that by creating playlists that link content together and signposting directly to the next video in a series at the end of your current content. It's worth keeping an eye on how your viewing data shifts as you evolve and develop the content you bring to the channel. For example, if you try a new introduction format, does it impact viewer retention in the first 30 seconds of your video? In this way, you can take small steps to improving each video you make and giving your audience more of what they want. If along the way people subscribe to your channel, that's great, especially in the early days if you want to get monetized. But in reality, how people consume content on YouTube has changed dramatically in recent years. The recommended feed is king, and if you can get someone to watch your content for a decent amount of time, you can be sure your next video will appear on their recommended feed. I can't remember when I personally last clicked on my own subscriptions to find content to watch. I increasingly just trust YouTube to provide me with videos I like based on my watch history, yes, who I subscribe to, but also God knows what other data it's gathering on me all the time. So I tend to view subscriptions these days as people liking my content enough to bookmark my channel. I don't think it's quite a vanity measure, but it does not mean they'll watch or even be shown every video I produce. Of course, if you're enjoying these tips, you could hit the subscribe button and bookmark Broca for yourself. Now, unless you arrive on YouTube with an existing profile in the racing or sim racing world, or can bring skill and experience to making and marketing content from the off, it's very likely the growth of your sim racing channel will be a slow burn. YouTube is saturated with this kind of content, and getting seen is not easy. Being consistent despite this is key, and to help with that, it's worth measuring your expectations so that you don't grow frustrated or disillusioned. Try not to compare yourself to much bigger and better established channels, not just early on, but more generally. I've fallen into this trap myself a lot, but thankfully Chris Rogers of CR Sim Racing frequently reminds me that everyone's journey will be different, and you can only affect what happens on your channel. And for that great bit of advice alone, you should definitely go and check out his channel. Plus, there are lots of things you can do to both maintain your interest and accelerate that growth. One thing I'd recommend is joining existing sim racing communities, which allows you to engage directly with people who you'd like to be in your audience alongside other creators as well. Don't spam them, obviously. Talk to them and race with them. You'll soon be inspired in terms of your content generation and on your way to building a great connection with a wider group of sim racing enthusiasts. It's also great to have goals for growth to keep you motivated, but try not to get carried away. My drive to get to 1,000, 5,000 and 10,000 subs has no doubt been key to growing Broca Sim Racing, but at times it has left me feeling frustrated, anxious and exhausted with YouTube. The problem can become that you just focus on these numbers rather than the joy of sim racing and content creation. And the reality is the world does not change when you hit 1,000 subscribers and get monetized. Any revenue you generate will be very small for a long time and largely come down to your video view counts anyway. Nor has my world changed since hitting 10,000 subscribers. Don't get me wrong, it's very satisfying and I'm very grateful to everybody who has subbed. But the grind continues on as it did before. And that's why you have to keep finding ways to enjoy doing what you're doing. I'm not sure it's enough to just enjoy sim racing. I think you have to enjoy the act of storytelling and content creation too, and not just to grow your channel, but to genuinely want to engage and entertain others. Chasing viral videos and overnight growth is extremely hard, and in my opinion it's unlikely to work anyway. I think viewers can tell when you're having fun and will reward you with more clicks and view time if they come away from watching your content entertained and inspired. Thankfully, I still find enough fun and enjoyment myself in making content as we head into 2024. On my Discord, there's a great community of small to medium-sized sim racing creators who frequently share problems, opportunities and support one another. If you're on this journey too, there's a link in the description and we'd all love to see you there. In the meantime, I hope you found this video helpful. And if you want an insight into more things that they don't tell you when you become a YouTube content creator, then you'll really enjoy the next video on screen now.